Hello! Today I'll match LEGO minidolls against minifigures in a pretend battle of size, during which we'll see why the world of minidolls is not exactly the same as the minifigure one. BrickoMotion. For a long time, the minifigures were the dominant human-like species in the LEGO world. And then came the minidolls, and now the minifigs remain the dominant human-like species in the LEGO world, but the dolls are here to stay as well. In this playlist, we'll see what makes them better, worse, or just different from the minifigs, and how does that reflect on their surroundings. The minidolls are a bit taller than the figures. The headpieces are roughly the same size. The doll's torso is shorter and the legs are longer. These proportions make the minidolls look more human-like and win them the first point in this made-up contest. Yay! And how does this height variation affect the minis' homes? Everything that is approximately waist height will have to be 1 or 2 plates higher for minidolls. The standard doors and windows work with the dolls and the figs. The doors are high enough that you can use them in the same way for both, but you will need to position the minidolls' windows a bit higher, at least if you want the dolls to be able to see through it. The 2 brick-high cupboards with a plate on top work great with minidolls, so feel free to use them as much as you want. For minifigs, the cupboards serve more as a standing desk, so I recommend bringing them down by burying them into the floor. You'll only lower them by 1 plate this way, but sometimes a plate is all you need. Moving on to the width and depth. This is probably the most noticeable difference between the minis. The dolls are thinner than the figures, but they both have the same arm span, so they will both have the same difficulties getting through doors and windows. No extra stealthy burglar points to give out here, but we can look at how closely they can stand or sit next to and behind each other. We'll only look at square patterns as they are of more use to us than the hexagonal ones. Minifigs stand comfortably next to each other at a 2-stud distance. If they are willing to do some awkward hand-holding, they can shrink it to a 1-stud gap. With some bending at the waist, you could further decrease it to 0, but that may not qualify as standing anymore, so we won't count it. The minifig's feet need a space of 1 by 2 studs to firmly stand on their ground. Does that mean they can stand in line one behind the other with no gap? Of course not! An essential part of a minifig is its head, and the head is wider than the stud, so the fig next in line will have to back up at least 1 stud. The minidolls also need a 2-stud separation gap for a spacious lineup because of the arm span. But the narrow shoulders allow for a lot more arm wriggling, resulting in a 0-stud gap between the dolls standing next to each other. Since the doll's feet are a bit larger than 1 stud, you can only position a doll on every 2nd stud. Not that you could line them up without a gap otherwise, they've got big heads too, and hair pieces. So, the closest you can pack standing minifigures on a surface is so that every fig takes up a space of 3 by 2 studs. For standing minidolls, that area is smaller, 2 by 2 studs. Thus, the dolls win their 2nd point. Yoo-hoo! The figs will need to step it up if they want to win this battle. Maybe in the seating department? The minifigs need a 2 by 2 space to sit down, but they also need half a stud space on each side for the arms. Therefore, the effective area a fig takes up in a closest packed seating arrangement is 3 by 2 studs. For seating the dolls, I'll need the help of these pieces. The minidolls' longer legs occupy a space of 2 by 3 studs, but the arm bending allows them to be seated right next to each other. The total area needed for any one minidoll is in this case 2 by 3 studs, making this round a tie. Still, both minis get a point. Happy birthday! The dolls for the closeness next to each other, and the figs for the compactness after each other. the most obvious place where you could use the square closest packed seating information is in vehicles. Just don't forget to factor in the vehicle's walls and the arms of the minis sitting at both ends. With all that in mind, we can look at an example. 3 mini dolls can squeeze next to each other in an 8-stud wide van or bench. The same bench or van will fit only 2 minifigs. Similarly, when it comes to the length of a car, you will be able to fit more rows of figures than dolls in a cabin. In conclusion, the mini dolls are taller and thinner than the minifigures, and their world reflects that. The windows and desks are a plate or two higher, and the cars are slimmer and longer than the minifigure ones. The mini doll world looks a bit more like the real world, and ultimately that won them this battle of size. But this is not the only battle to be had. We'll see who wins the next one and who will win the war. And by war, I mean a completely made-up competition that I'm the sole rule maker and judge of. But it will be fun, at least for me. Bye bye.